Hey, this is Ramez, and I'm going to be giving a review over All Quiet on the Western Front. If I had to rate this book on a scale of 1 to 10, I would definitely give it an 8. The thing that I really liked most about this book was how realistic it was. Unlike most stories, this one apparently did not have a happy ending. The summer of 1918 was a major climax of the novel, which was near the end of the story. This was because all of Paul's friends that were with him throughout the novel end up getting killed, including his best friend Cad. The only person that was left at the end was traumatized and lonely Paul in an unknown world. I also think the author did a good job describing the details of the good times they had, such as running to the other side of the river, which was outside of their jurisdiction, just to find themselves with the hooker. This really made the novel diverse and not just focused on war at all times. I honestly like all of the characters throughout the whole novel because all of them played a part in making it the best novel it could possibly be. My favorite characters, though, would probably be Jaden, Kat, and Paul himself. I like Jaden because he was really joyful and just brought life to any bad situation they were in with his jokes. He wasn't scared of losing his rank either, considering the fact that he was disrespecting Himmelstows constantly, who was higher in rank to him. I liked Kat because he was Paul's day one friend, and he was mostly with him throughout the novel, and whatever they did together. I didn't realize he was my favorite, though, until after his death, because that made me really realize how much of an impact he had on Paul. And obviously, I like Paul because the whole story is based on him. And if it weren't for him, we wouldn't have such a story on what it's like on the front. This may not apply to everyone, but I personally like history and war. For that reason, I enjoyed this novel because I actually got an insight of what it's really like on the front. However, if you don't enjoy stories about war and fighting in general, I would not recommend this book to you. I'll have to admit though, at the beginning of the novel, like the first couple chapters, I wasn't really into the book. In fact, I did all my reading the day before the deadline for the test on the first half of the book. However, once I started reading the book nonstop, I got into it and I couldn't stop reading it. That's because the beginning is slow and boring in my opinion because they brought in new characters like every 5 pages, and it was hard to tell who's actually important and gonna be there throughout the novel. But once I got familiar with the characters and who I need to know that's actually important in the novel, that's when I finally got with the. That's like when I finally got into the novel. When Paul was awarded a leave and he went home, it was really interesting how a person changes to war. It is also good to know that a person that just came back from a tragic place shouldn't be asked questions about what happened there, and instead, you should distract them with something else. My guess as to why that is that they came home just to get away from all the fighting, being reminded of the things that scares them and about what's waiting for them when their vacation is over. Something that didn't make sense to me though is what's with their obsession with cigarettes. Like they valued every one cigarette they had, and a single cigarette to them was the equivalent to a piece of gold. Even food is just as important to them as having a cigarette. Maybe it's the only joy they ever got on the front, I guess. Who knows? I don't like to read much, and it's not really my thing, but this book was definitely worth reading. In a way, this book is a legacy of the war hero Paul Boomer. There were definitely more people with stories just as fascinating as Paul's story on the front, more or less. However, Paul had the courage to replay what happened over at the front, and he told a story to the world. It takes courage because it can be hard replaying what happened in your head. It was clearly shown when Paul was unable to tell his parents what really happened when he was on his leave. Paul has also given anyone looking to join the military a guide for how things may get in the future and what to really expect during a war. There were also some scenes in the novel that I didn't like as well. Particularly, I didn't like the scene when Paul and Kat are in the hospital with a bunch of other soldiers and nuns. They were in there as patients after getting badly injured on the front. The reason for me not liking this scene is because I couldn't really get an image in my head of what the hospital is actually like. I'm used to seeing normal hospitals, so I can't really imagine a hospital with nuns walking around and like 20 soldiers just laying in one room together, all badly injured. Because I've never seen that before, and I have no idea what that really looks like. What's the point of reading a book when you yourself can't imagine? When you yourself can't imagine whatever is going on in the novel. It's like reading words with no meaning. Anyways, this is all my opinion on the book, and I highly recommend this book to you if you are into life and death situations in history. I mean, sure, there's probably other war books or autobiographies that gives the audience knowledge about what's really happening on the front. However, this book will give you a sense that you're reading a novel and not just an article. That's because they show you all the good times they have as well, and not just the war. Thanks for listening.